Hello and welcome to Hanratty on Karate. So this is the second part of a podcast by Dan Koska, local author and podcast producer. And last one was kind of interesting. We kind of got a little bit carried away, but we're going to carry on in the same theme. I believe Dan has a few more questions. So over to you, Dan.
My first question is, in fights that you see in TV and movies, you often see the defender doing multiple blocks before they ever counter. Is that realistic that you can block multiple techniques before you finally decide how you're going to respond to the situation?
No, it's not. One of the first techniques I'll teach is a block, right? And then the reason you block, one of the reasons I tell people is why you block, obviously not to get hit, but you could also run away or evade. But the only reason you block is to counter. So multiple blocks, even against people who are coming with multiple techniques, you see them back off, till they've got the perfect, wonderful looking back spinning kick or something. A little bit fanciful, because you can close the distance really fast using your block as an entry technique to put your opponent down really fast. Now, you don't do that in competition, obviously, but if you're in the street and somebody's coming at you, you want to block whatever he's coming with or dissuade him from coming with that by beating him to it. So you close the distance really fast. Now, this type of timing we call tai-no-sen or sen-no-sen. Sen is timing in Japanese. And where you block first and then deliver whatever counter or technique you're going to do, that would be go-no-sen, which means to receive and then give. Tai-no-sen is where you meet him. You meet the attack with a counter, with maybe a simultaneous block and counter. And sen-no-sen was you sense his intentions before his movement, which is quite easy actually once you've been around a while. Sense the intentions before he moves, and you drop him first with your technique. Might look like I instigated it, but in fact it wasn't there. People go through all this rigmarole, usually before they make any kind of attack or confrontational technique, and you can sense it. You can pick up on it. You pick up on the body language, you pick up on the body position, you pick up on the attitude. It's up to you what you do with it. If you can't get away, then you might as well go straight in.
And can someone really develop their body or their mind so they become immune to pain, like develop the proverbial iron fist, or develop their feet so that striking somebody no longer causes pain, or develop themselves psychologically through training so that they don't feel pain if they're hit?
I don't think so. If you're hit, it's usually a shock to the system. You've got a transfer of kinetic energy within any technique that makes a target. As to them not feeling pain, probably one of the most developed practitioners of pain would be either Chuck Kubota, who's down in California, or Mario Iguana, who was an Okinawan practitioner. They work the Makawara every day to harden up their knuckles, and Chuck Kubota used to hit his forearms and his shins with a steel mallet to deaden the pain and build up the muscles. That was just their belief, to be honest with you. You're not going to overcome pain. People have different reactions to pain. I found out whenever I got it, I got very angry. That was just me. It didn't knock me down. It didn't defeat me. I had a definite, I'm going to get you kind of deal going on without me even thinking about it. My reaction to pain is violence. But that's just me. Not everybody's is. I'm pretty sure, though, most people who train, that's their reaction. And if you've never been hit, you're never going to know whether would be your reaction or not. And so the people, like I've taught down in the States a lot and over in Europe, and one of the things that really surprised me down in the States, even when you're doing a demonstration and I'd punch, and I got quite good control, I can stop right on the target, and it would stop on skin contact, and the person would flinch right back and go, "Oh, you hit me." No, I did not hit you. There's a difference between touch and hit.
The last time we spoke, you talked a bit about adrenaline.
Yeah.
Isn't it true that often you don't feel the pain of an injury until after the moment because the adrenaline kind of blocks it out?
Yeah, well, what you're going to get is your circulatory system pulls the blood from the outer extremities to protect the internal organs, okay, the vital organs. Now, this is in a situation where you've got high adrenaline dump, okay? it's a little slow to come on, but when it comes on, you know it straight away. Everything's just buzzing and your mouth is dry and everything else. Really, really hard to control. And at that point, you're probably not going to notice it. I've been in a fight, right, competition fight, and the adrenaline's up and you're moving around, and then you come off the mat and I've noticed my toe sticking out looking like a turn signal, right? And I just knocked it back in. I didn't feel it. Well, the next day I did. And I've certainly broken a fair number of bones in my hand when fighting. Sank a punch into a guy and he immediately dropped his elbow with the contact because it caused him a lot of pain. Dropped it onto the top of my hand where you got a lot of small bones in the top of your hand, and it's not like the knuckles, and immediately broke the back of my hand. And I've had that done a few times. It's quite scarred up over the years, but you don't notice it. In fact, on that particular situation, after that, there was a competition. I got on my motorbike and I drive home using the throttle with a broken hand.
Wow.
I got home and got, ow, my hand's killing me.
Something that reminds me of, it seems that in a lot of movies and TV shows, they heal remarkably quickly, because when I once got a cracked rib in a karate tournament, it was 2 or 3 months of barely being able to move around while that healed, and it hurt every time I breathed deeply, and my greatest fear was getting a cough or a hiccup, because it was so painful every time. But in action movies, they can get cracked ribs, and it seems the next day they're able to fight some more guys.
Yeah, I say that's the movies, and that's why it's kind of ridiculous when you see 110-pound little dolly women knocking out big guys and all that with a flying kick or spinning kick or even just a punch. They'd shatter their hands. Yeah.
And how about pressure points? Are they as deadly or incapacitating as they're often depicted?
Yeah, as long as you've got the fine motor skills to find the pressure points under pressure, they're certainly useful in techniques. As I've said before, though, when you get into a confrontation for real, you probably end up, after the confrontation, whether win or lose, 6 blocks down the road, trying to get your heartbeat down below 200. So pressure points do work, but you got to keep in mind finding them. It's not like an acupuncturist where you're lying still and he's policing them in all of these positions. And nobody ever going to get out of a fight using the Spock death grip.
Mm-hmm. Do trained martial artists automatically have a big advantage in a street fight, or are there factors that can neutralize that training and experience and make them vulnerable?
Yeah, anything can neutralize training and experience. To be honest with you, it's all a question of attitude. If somebody wants to hurt you and they're determined to hurt you, you're going to have to stop them dead. You're going to have to knock them out, knock them unconscious. And that's not as easy as it sounds. So people are really mad and they're revved up. They can come at you biting, scratching, whatever they're going to do. Butting, kneeing, elbows. And you can stop it. You can stop it with really, really well-paced punch. But you've got a lot going on. And you don't know what angle they're coming at. It's not like the dojo where you're going to come straight out from the front or whatever. Plus, you may have 3 mates waiting to jump on your back or play football with your head. Mm-hmm. So, putting somebody down, knocking them out, isn't as easy as you think. You see it on a lot of videos, people get knocked out, right? Mm. Yeah, I agree, you can knock somebody out. But when somebody gets knocked out, it's usually because you've hit the jaw at just the right angle to whip the cranium. And your brain is sitting inside of the fluid inside of your skull. It's very well protected. And what you have to do is shatter that protection, right? So you get the head to snap so that the brain gets shifted fast from one side to the other. That causes concussion, possibly blackout. A sharp blow to the front of the face is going to snap the head back and you get the same kind of thing. It's like whiplash in a car.
Mm-hmm. How long does it really take to become a black belt level fighter in karate?
Well, different styles have different grading levels, and a lot of it depends on who you're training with. And this is why it's so important to get a good instructor. We teach traditional karate for serious students. A lot of karate schools, particularly in the States, teach for money. That's all they're interested in. So they're going to get black belt level as soon as they've paid the money. I know there's some clubs, even friends of mine in the States, they sign their students onto a black belt contract. So they pay their money up front, and then they say, yeah, you'll get a black belt, and it'll be so long. In our club, our average is 4 years. If you ask me how long I took to get a black belt, it was 8 years. I wasn't interested in getting a black belt, I was just interested in getting good. I wasn't even sure what was all entailed, to be honest with you. All I did was just got my head down and trained. And I wasn't very good at grading. I tended to go a little crazy in the kumite section. And I think the only reason Sensei Hanratty gave me my black belt was because he was sick and tired of seeing me applying for it every time. But I didn't get any grading straight off. I always got temporary grade, temporary grade, temporary grade. In all of my grading sequences, right up until it took me 4 tries to get to Shodan. And I eventually got it in Cardiff Castle in Wales. I used to travel all over England. Every time they had a black and brown belt course with a grading, I'd apply to go on it. They just got sick and tired of me.
I'm curious what you think about whether someone can learn to fight well just by watching YouTube videos and practicing at home.
Well, watching YouTube videos and practicing at home, to me, it would be like learning to swim from YouTube videos and practicing at home. So if you think that is achievable just by watching a video or practicing at home, then I've got news for you. No. Yeah. There's so many psychological variables that become involved when somebody is facing somebody else, even in the dojo. People can walk up and down the dojo doing techniques all day, basic techniques. They can practice them on the bag. They can punch the makawara. But you put somebody else in front of you, and things become a little unpredictable. Even in a basic situation where you know, okay, you punch to the face, you block and counter. That's one straightforward situation. It changes everything.
Now, I know you're, of course, an 8th Dan in Shotokan Karate, and that's the style you've practiced and taught for over 50 years. But what are your thoughts when people try to claim that certain martial arts are much more effective than others or better than others?
Certain people are more effective and better than others, and that's the bones of it. We don't just teach people to be fighters or whatever. Yeah, you can use it for self-defense. You can also use it to make yourself better, to improve your confidence, your resilience, to build up your leadership skills, to help you in your professional life. Karate does all this for you, which is why it's called Karate Do, the way. It's just another way of getting through your life. Talking about different types, different skills, what I like about karate is I'm almost into my 80s now, and I'm still doing karate twice a week. I swim and I go to the gym as well, play golf. But I don't see an awful lot of other so-called martial arts. You don't see too many Muay Thai fighters at 80. You certainly don't see any mixed martial arts fighters at 80. Not too many jiu-jitsu people at 80 either. So, yeah, you can say one is better than the other, and you may be able to prove it with putting one top man against another top man. It all depends on the attitude, on the day, and what rules, and of course there's rules to fighting. If there wasn't any rules, who knows? You could get some big drunk from a pub on the corner come out and sort the pair of them out. You really don't know. That's not why we do it. It's not to say who's best.
You brought up the topic of age. What about the common thing you see in movies where there's an 80-year-old kung fu master and he's as agile as a cat and able to take on 20-year-olds? What's the reality? Can someone get better and better and still be as agile and fast as they were when they were much younger?
Well, they must be taking better drugs than I am. That's all I can say. No. I mean, let's be realistic. Age is something that deteriorates the body over time. Anybody will tell you this who's gotten to any age. I mean, even a 20-year-old going against a 40-year-old. When I was 40, it was probably the peak of my strength. It may not have been the peak of my speed, but I was certainly faster at 40 than I am now, and I had a lot of strength. There's just certain things. You reach a peak, usually around mid-20s, when things start to fall off, which is why you don't see too many professional athletes much after 30, 35. Depends which sport they're doing. But you don't see, for example, footballers, and I'm talking about soccer players, if you like.
Yes.
There's very few of them that will continue after 33, 34. Maybe defenders who don't run as much. You get the odd one that will go till the 40s, like Ronaldo, who's superbly fit, right? He's got a private gym and he's worth $1 billion. So, and he's probably got every doctor under the sun. And let's face it, you have to be a prime candidate before you're even picked for professional sports. You're certainly going to have got a lot more nourishment than I got when I was a kid. You're picked for how good your body is and the potential it has. It's like a ballet dancer. Have you ever watched the movie Billy Elliot? It's a really cool movie. He goes in to be a ballet dancer, but the first thing they do is they give him a top-to-toe medical, and they assess the curvature of the spine, likelihood of arthritic bone diseases and stuff like this. Now, ballet dancers, to me, they are amazing athletes, amazing human beings for how they perform. The discipline that they use, I'd like to feel we could give that same kind of discipline, but we can't. People just can't do it. There's 1 in a million turn out great.
Sensei, do martial artists tend to avoid fighting in real life? Do they sometimes seek out real-life situations to try out their skills?
No, and I'm going to say that with tongue-in-cheek because I do know some people that used to do that, but it didn't last. It was some weird kind of stuff where you had these macho guys when they were young and they were doing karate, and it was a different mindset in the 70s for people doing karate. You got very confident in yourself. I'm not saying you went looking for trouble, but I know of a couple of black belts. They'd hear about a kung fu gym opening. Now, kung fu was definitely looked down upon, apart from one club in Liverpool. My mate Alfie Lewis ran probably the best kung fu club around. But these were like guys who just thought they'd make a few bucks out of suckers who were looking to train and try to be like a Wang Chan, or whatever, or a Bruce Lee. And they go around, they'd stand at the back end of the dojo where these guys were training, and they'd go, that won't work, that won't work, that won't work. That would be the closest I've seen. On the other hand, I've had people walk into my dojo and all they wanted to do was fight. I had a couple of taekwondo guys come in one night and they just wanted to spar in the class. And I let them, but they weren't too happy about it.
Now, anyone who searches martial arts videos online is bound to come across these videos where supposed masters are using their chi or their energy to knock opponents over without even touching them. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on those kinds of videos.
Well, I'll be honest with you, you wouldn't really like to hear some of my thoughts on that, because I would take any one of those, all this no-touch knockout stuff, and there's some people, especially down in the States, that I don't know why I say the States, maybe it's the craziest country I know, but they love this kind of thing. They get into it. It's the biggest load of codswallop going. I ran a camp over in Esquimalt on Vancouver Island years ago, and the guy who hosted the camp, he brought in this so-called esoterical style. And this guy came in a black gi, which we kind of looked at him anyway, because this was maybe the 80s, early 90s. And we kind of looked at him anyway, because we all wore white gis. And what we'd do is we had 200-300 people in this camp. So we'd split them up into beginners and novice and advanced, and I usually take all the advanced, and I'd take the team training. So anyway, I finished team training early because the guys were just beat, and so we're watching the novice training, and this guy's telling them, I can bring a kick up here, and even if it doesn't hit you, you'll get knocked out. So I go, I can't, no, I've got to say something. So I go down and I go, can you just explain to me that? And he says, well, yeah, he says, I have the energy in my technique that you're going to feel it. Can you show me? I said, well, I don't want to hurt you. I said, don't worry, you won't. Of course, it was a load of rubbish. Didn't do anything. The one thing you got to remember, if you want to hurt somebody, you're going to have to make a transfer of kinetic energy from your body to theirs. And that's only done by utilizing speed and mass to produce power. Any other kind of thing is pure hokum.
And anyone who's been to a dojo, at least a traditional dojo, they'll see a lot of shouting. There's the ki, which is this shouting that you see, and some movies also depict it. In real life street fights, do people ki? Would it serve any function? Would you? Is it something you would do in a fight?
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to say one thing right now. Bruce Lee was a load of crap, all the noises he made. Now, he died years ago, but every now and again you get people, oh, Bruce Lee said this and Bruce Lee said that. He's been dead 30 years, let it go. And honestly, he wasn't that good. He just happened to be the best that was around right then. And he got on TV. He wasn't even the best that was around. I think there was better. But he got himself into movies and he made some money. And the stupidest noises he made are just ridiculous. There's a concept in karate called kakegoe, and I've mentioned this before, where you use your voice as a weapon. It's not just in karate, this is in everyday life. Some people argue, and to get a point across, they'll raise their voice. And also I mentioned about verbal abuse being a lot more common than physical abuse. And you subdue people a lot more with verbal abuse, or people are subdued a lot more, especially women in domestic situations. They get subdued a lot more with verbal abuse than they do with physical abuse, and they don't report it, right? But it's a two-way street. You can use this verbal noise, if you like, or you can use your voice as a weapon to get you out of trouble, which I teach in my self-defense. So this is going to show confidence that you're going to make a noise, right? Now, the first thing I do with beginners is I try to get them to make ki-is, allow ki. Now, they come into my dojo, I tell them, I'm the loudest in the dojo. I'm the oldest and I'm the loudest. Your job, be louder than me. Okay? There's so many advantages to using the voice at different times during, before, or after the technique. What it does, first of all, you're going to get rid of all the bad breath. It's going to help you expel all the carbon dioxide in your lungs so that you can get fresh oxygen in. And when we're working the bag, it's a high cardio exercise that we use. We'll work the bag. You'll hit the bag 100, 50, 100 techniques. You come off, you're absolutely bagged. Pun. Anyway, but you're gasping. What I do is I tell them, make 3 loud ki-is as quickly and as loud as you can. Straight away, the breath's back. Right? So that's one advantage of it. The other advantage of it, hitting with a ki, is it focuses mind, body, technique, and breathing all at the right time, all at the absolute correct time. Making a ki just prior to the technique helps you freeze your opponent for that split second, extends his mental interval so that you can catch him with your technique. So it's at different times that you can do this. And yeah, you do use it out in the street. I certainly did. Yeah.
Now, we've talked a lot about what martial arts are not, how there are common misconceptions about karate and other martial arts. Can you talk a bit about what it is about? What do you think the purpose of it should be? And also, what kinds of leadership qualities or character do you try to instill in the young people who become members of your dojo?
Well, martial arts, as posed by Funakoshi Sensei, when he first brought them over for Okinawa, they changed it from Tode just to Karate Do. Do means the way. And this is the way that you want to live your life. And we try to instill that kind of feeling. So when you're training martial arts, you're going to learn things about yourself. How much resilience you have, because you're not going to succeed on every single technique. Not every session you're going to come out there thinking, oh man, I feel great. So you're going to have to deal with how you rebound from that. So resilience is really important, and I did a paper and a lecture on it during COVID, just how important the concept of resilience was, because COVID was a very bad time for everybody. I mean, we couldn't train. I was doing sessions here in my office, putting them on Zoom and Google Meet and stuff like that twice a week. Idea was to get across to people that this will pass, right? And resilience, the very word means like elasticity, getting back to your original state. But I wanted to come back to your original state, and it's the same thing in the dojo. I want you to come back to your original state with a different view of yourself. And this different view teaches you how to deal with adversity. Now, kids today and people today in the world don't come up against adversity that much. It's cushioned, all right? It's either cushioned by the school, or it's cushioned by your parents, or you can go on social media and cry with all your friends, or wherever. Dealing with adversity means dealing with yourself, all right? Not with a group, not looking to somebody to put pillows under your head or wrap you in marshmallow stuff. This means dealing with yourself and dealing with adversity. You have to be able to do it. But what karate does is it helps you deal with adversity because, as I say, not every situation is going to go your way. Some days it's going to be hard. You might get blisters, you might get bruises, you might get cuts. But you'll come through it. And that's resilience, and you have the fortitude to accept this and move on. Now, it also teaches you great leadership qualities, right? And leadership comes from being your own person, and then other people will admire you because you're your own person. So the leadership qualities that we try to bring on, originally they're almost in a false situation because we teach you to respect your kohai, who's senior to you, and you're the senpai. So the kohai senpai system brings on a leadership situation whether you like it or not. But it also encourages you to do the same thing. I go into the dojo, I go into my office, I get changed, I come back. I'm very rarely late into the dojo. Always there before everybody else, right? That's just something I've done. But say I get caught up with a phone call in the office, and then I come into the dojo and it's 2 minutes past 6. One of the juniors will have taken it upon himself to warm up the class. So the leadership thing comes in slowly, but it's by example, and it's by testing whether you can lead or not. Even with a couple of white belts, you got a couple of white belts in the line, and you say, okay, we're going to do a hand showdown, away you go. Now, one of them will stand up straight, and he'll announce his kata, and he'll go, and the other guy, and he'll be looking at him. Who's the leader, who isn't? It's straight away, it becomes quite obvious who's going to be a leader. But doesn't mean to say that that guy is always going to be a leader. What will happen is this guy will take his example, and he'll use it. Maybe on a new guy who comes in under him. Okay, we always have the kohai senpai thing. So you get leadership, you get resilience, you get dealing with adversity. All of these things come through, and from all of that, you get this great feeling of self-confidence. Now, I'm not a big guy. I'm a little fat old guy. But I don't walk like a little fat old guy, and I don't talk like a little fat old guy. Okay? So it gives you this great feeling of confidence where you feel good about yourself. Because you can go in and you can do a hard class that most people would pass out in 10 minutes, right? Or you can conduct a class, or you have a background of knowledge after so many years where you can pass it on to somebody else. All of this gives you this really good feeling of confidence and experience and almost expert knowledge, if you like. Sometimes, like I wrote a couple of books. What surprised me with writing the books is I didn't find it that hard. It wasn't what I was putting in the books that surprised me. It was what I had to leave out of the books. So you don't realize how much you know about a subject until you have to talk about it or explain it or teach it or put it down in writing. And karate's done that for me. It's been my way. And it's just the vehicle that I've chosen to ride on for all of my life. And I love to share that experience with people. And I can talk for hours to beginners on what karate does for me. Now, whether they choose to accept that and try to get the same experience is up to them. Times change. I understand that. The world changes and how people look at the world changes. When I was 18 going to school, we'd sit up and drink all night, 5 o'clock in the morning. We'd discuss everything in the world. We'd solve every single problem in the world. By 10 o'clock the next morning, we'd forgotten what we were talking about. But we had the confidence that we could change the world. So I believe in young people. I absolutely believe in them because I've been there and I know what it felt like, and it felt great. Yeah.
Now, I've thought of one last question I'd like to wrap up with.
Yep.
And that is, I've heard that, if someone's an expert in a certain topic, like a lawyer finds it difficult to enjoy courtroom drama because they see everything that's depicted inaccurately, or a doctor can't enjoy a medical show because everything is being depicted inaccurately. Obviously, some shows are much better than others in terms of being accurate. Is it harder for you to enjoy martial arts movies and shows because you see all the things that aren't realistic?
Yeah, it is and it isn't. If it's really bad, I'll go, that's terrible, that won't work. I particularly don't like shows where we discussed earlier where there's lightweight women knock out big guys and all the rest of it. That is, to me, is stupid. Most of the time I'll just enjoy the entertainment that's offered and take it at face value. But it's like, I'm sure there's people who like guns who look at John Wick and they'll go, man, that guy's fired 57 shots out of one pistol, and that's going to spoil it for them. But you take it for what it is, which is entertainment. It's like when I'm doing demonstrations or putting demonstrations together, we usually throw one demonstration up for a competition, or if we're doing demonstrations for the general public, it's all choreographed. It's just like people want to show you how they can dance, they choreograph it, right? They don't just get there and do it ad lib. It's all set out. But you watch Singing in the Rain, right? You're going, wow, that guy's a fantastic dancer, and he just did that. No, he didn't. Probably took him 9 days choreographing that, and the gallons of water and 17 changes of clothes. Life is funny, It's shallow and it's deep. And sometimes you enjoy the shallow, and sometimes you enjoy the deep.
Well, I think we've had a wonderful mix of shallow and deep in this conversation. I want to thank you for letting me ask you these questions.
No problem.
It's your podcast, so I'll let you do your wrap-up.
Okay, well, thank you for listening to Hanratty on Karate. Any questions, comments, or criticisms, I don't care. Get a hold of me and I'll be sure to answer you. Take care.